Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Are you ready for some high-stakes political drama with a side of international intrigue?
Always up for a good story,
Hmm.
especially one with a disappearing property tycoon.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're diving into the conviction of former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife, Bushra Bibi, in this whole Al-Qadir Trust case.
That's the one.
We're basing this deep dive on a really in-depth article from dawn.com, and let me tell you, it is a wild ride. So to set the scene, on January 17th, 2025, a Pakistani judge handed down some pretty hefty sentences. 14 years for Imran Khan and 7 for Bushra Bibi.
And those are just the prison sentences. They were also ordered to pay massive fines.
Huge fines. And get this, if they don't pay up, they could be looking at even more time behind bars.
It's serious stuff. And to add to the drama, the whole thing went down in this makeshift courtroom, right inside Adiala jail where Khan was already being held.
Wow, I bet that was a tense atmosphere.
You can say that again. And it gets even more interesting when you look at the details of the case. The judge ordered the complete forfeiture of the Al-Qadir University Project Trust.
Okay, hold on. Forfeiture. What does that mean exactly?
It means they lose all rights to it. The trust's assets are basically seized, and this is a direct result of the National Accountability Ordinance of 1999, which was specifically put in place to recover assets gained through corruption.
Got it. So let's back up a bit and talk about the accusations in the Al-Qadir Trust case. What exactly are Imran Khan and his wife accused of doing?
Well, at the heart of it, they're accused of leveraging their positions to get land and money from this big-time real estate developer called Bahria Town Ltd.
Bahria Town Ltd, that name rings a bell. Are they a major player in Pakistan?
Absolutely massive, one of the biggest real estate companies in the entire country. The case alleges that Khan and Bibi essentially helped Bahria Town Ltd. legalize a huge sum of money, around $190 million, that had been sent back to Pakistan from the UK.
Hold up. $190 million. That's a mind-boggling amount of money. What were Khan and Bibi supposed to get out of this deal?
According to the accusations, hundreds of canals of land.
Canals.
Yeah, it's a unit of land measurement used in Pakistan and India. Anyway, they supposedly got hundreds of canals of land and a staggering Rs $50 billion. We're talking about potentially huge financial gains.
Yeah, this isn't some petty crime, that's for sure.
It sounds like something out of a movie, right?
Yeah.
But this is where things get even wilder. That $190 million was flagged as potential crime proceeds.
Crime proceeds, meaning it was probably dirty money.
Right. It was likely obtained illegally.
So this case is connected to the whole global effort to fight money laundering. That adds a whole new dimension, doesn't it? Can you explain why that's such a big deal?
Absolutely. Money laundering is a massive problem worldwide. Criminals try to make their illegally gotten gains look legit, which makes it super hard to track and recover those assets. When a country like the UK flags money as potential crime proceeds and returns it to the country of origin, it's a major step.
Because it disrupts these criminal networks.
Exactly. So if Khan and Bibi helped Bahria Town legalize this money, they could have been undermining those efforts.
Wow. And all of this is happening while Imran Khan is already in a pretty precarious position politically, right?
Right. He was ousted from office back in 2023 and has been facing a barrage of legal cases ever since.
Which he claims are politically motivated, right?
Exactly. Khan has vehemently denied any wrongdoing. He insists that all these legal troubles are just tactics to silence him. He's been incredibly defiant, even from jail, rejecting any deals offered to him and vowing to continue his fight against what he calls a dictatorship.
He's painting himself as a victim of the system.
He is. And the dawn.com article even quotes him as saying, "Those who stand against dictatorship are punished." It's a powerful statement.
And are his supporters buying it? Do they believe him?
It seems like many of them do, especially within his party, PTI. There's been a huge outcry over his conviction, with many PTI leaders calling it a clear case of political victimization. They're echoing Khan's claims that he's being targeted because he dares to oppose the current government.
So we have these conflicting narratives. The court's decision, Khan's claims of political persecution, and the reactions from his supporters. It's a lot to unpack.
It is. And this story is far from over. There's a lot more to explore here. For example, remember that property tycoon I mentioned earlier, the one behind Bahria Town, Malik Riaz Hussain?
Yeah, the guy who supposedly made the deal with Khan and Bibi. What about him?
Well, he and his son have completely vanished. They've been declared proclaimed offenders, which basically means they've gone into hiding to avoid facing trial, and all their assets have been frozen.
Whoa, wait a minute. They've disappeared. That's a major plot twist. They're central figures in this whole case.
Right. And it gets even more complicated. We also have testimonies from former PTI officials like Pervez Katak and Zubaida Jalal, who have stated that they were kept in the dark about certain aspects of the Al-Qadir Trust deal.
So even within Khan's own party, there are those who are raising questions about his actions.
Exactly. This is turning into quite a tangled web, and the more we dig, the more intriguing it becomes. But before we dive too deep into that, I think it's important to hear the government's perspective on this whole case. They clearly have a different take on things.
Yeah, let's hear what they have to say.
So, we talked a lot about the charges against Khan, the reactions from his supporters, all that. But what's the government side of the story?
Right, I imagine they're pretty pleased with this outcome.
You bet. Azam Nazir Tarar, who's the current law minister, has been pretty outspoken about the whole thing. He's really emphasizing that the court was just upholding the law. And he's arguing that the $190 million that was confiscated rightfully belongs to the nation.
So they're trying to spin this as a win for the Pakistani people, saying this money that was supposedly gained through corruption can now be used for good.
Exactly. Tarar has also been criticizing PTI, saying they didn't put up a strong enough defense in court. He's basically implying that if PTI had a solid case, their legal team would have done a better job.
Interesting. Can we get into the legal nitty-gritty here? What were the main arguments in the case, and why was the court's decision such a big deal?
Well, the whole case really revolved around the legality of settlement agreements.
Settlement agreements, you mean like deals?
Yeah, exactly. Like, was it even legal to transfer land and money in exchange for legalizing those alleged crime proceeds? That was the big question. And the court basically said, no, it wasn't.
So even if it's part of a settlement, those confiscated funds should have stayed in the country.
Right. And that aligns with those international anti-money laundering efforts we were talking about earlier. Remember, those practices are all about stopping criminals from profiting from illegal activities, making sure that any assets they got illegally are recovered.
I see. But I keep thinking about those claims from PTI supporters who are adamant that this whole case against Khan is politically motivated.
That's the thing. We had these two completely opposing narratives. The government's all about the rule of law, saying the court made the right call, and PTI is crying foul, claiming political persecution. It's a classic he said, she said situation. Makes it hard to know what to believe.
This whole situation really highlights the tension between political parties and the judiciary in Pakistan, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Khan's conviction is raising all these questions about impartiality, whether the legal system is being used as a weapon against political rivals. It's a touchy subject, and the outcome of this case could have a long-lasting impact on the balance of power in Pakistan.
Man, this keeps getting deeper. I'm realizing that this is way more than just a simple legal case.
Oh yeah, it goes way beyond that. It touches on political stability, the economy, even Pakistan's global image. But before we go too far down that road, there's another perspective we need to consider. Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, the leader of the Awam Pakistan Party.
Oh, what's his take on all this?
He's got an interesting stance. He's appealing for unity, respect for the Constitution, even though he recognizes how divided things are politically. He's actually trying to find common ground with PTI on this issue.
That's pretty diplomatic of him. Do you think he's being genuine, or is this just a political move?
Hard to say for sure. Politics is a tricky game. There could be a lot of different motives at play. We'll have to wait and see if Abbasi's efforts lead to anything, or if the political tensions just drown them out.
Okay, so let me recap. The government is celebrating, saying this is a win for the rule of law. PTI is crying foul, claiming this is all political. And then we have Abbasi calling for unity and respect for the Constitution. A lot to process.
It really is. But like we've been saying, this case goes way beyond the conviction itself. It gives us this glimpse into the complex world of Pakistani politics, the legal system, and how power plays into all of it. And it raises these huge questions about accountability, transparency, the future of the country.
This is fascinating stuff. I'm ready to keep digging. What else have you got for me?
Wow, we've really gone deep on this one, haven't we? From the details of the case to the whole political scene in Pakistan, it's obvious that this conviction has really shaken things up both in the country and internationally.
It has. This story has some major implications, not just for Imran Khan himself and what happens to him politically, but for Pakistan's stability, the economy, even its reputation on the world stage.
Let's talk about those long-term consequences. What could happen down the line because of all this?
Well, for starters, it really impacts how people view the judiciary, the court system. Whether you agree with the verdict or not, there's this idea out there that the legal system is being used to target political opponents. And that's a problem. It can erode people's trust in the courts, which just adds to the political instability.
So even if, legally speaking, the court was right, the political fallout could still be pretty intense. Exactly. And then there's the economic side of things. Think about it. A former prime minister convicted of corruption, especially with this much money involved, well, it could make foreign investors think twice about doing business in Pakistan.
They might get spooked, see the country is too risky.
Right. It just feeds into those concerns about corruption at the highest levels of government.
Makes sense. Investors want to see stability, transparency. A case like this, it raises red flags.
It does. And then you have to think about Pakistan's image globally. This case is already making headlines all over the world, and it's not exactly painting the country in a positive light.
People might start to see Pakistan as a place where corruption runs rampant and the rule of law is weak.
That's the risk. And that kind of reputation makes it a lot harder to build strong relationships with other countries, attract the investment needed to boost the economy.
It's a tough spot to be in. And to make things even more complicated, this case is far from over, right? PTI is going to appeal the verdict.
Oh, absolutely. They have already said they're going to fight it, and this could drag on in the courts for years.
So even though there's a conviction, the story isn't finished.
Nope, not by a long shot. And how those appeals play out could have a huge impact on the country's political future. Will Khan supporters accept the verdict if it's upheld? Will the political divides in Pakistan become even deeper? Lots of questions still hanging in the air.
This whole deep dive has been a real journey. We started with what seemed like a straightforward corruption case, but the more we dug, the more layers we uncovered. Political rivalries, questions about the courts, potential economic trouble, and then there's Malik Riaz, who's still out there somewhere.
It's a captivating story, and it really highlights how power, politics, and the legal system all intertwine. And as we've seen, there are still so many unanswered questions.
Will Khan be able to overturn his conviction? Will Malik Riaz and his son ever have to face the music? What does all of this mean for PTI, for Pakistani politics in general?
Those are the questions that people will be debating and analyzing for years to come. This case has revealed some deep cracks in Pakistani society. It's forcing people to think about accountability, transparency, and what the rule of law truly means.
This is a story that deserves our attention, and it's one that we'll continue to follow here at The Deep Dive. We encourage you to keep digging too, keep asking questions, and come to your own conclusions.
Remember, this is just one chapter in a much bigger story, a story that's still being written. Stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay curious.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time, but until then, keep exploring.